advising us all the time, for whom I am absolutely grateful. They are great experts from all the affected areas, the ones that I mentioned already before. And the results you already saw this year. We published the EASA opinion 01/2024, in which we presented the mature version of the draft proposal of the regulation. What we also considered to be essential for this field of regulation was to focus on people. So this is the most important pillar of the regulation. We wanted a regulation to work for people, to have the human being in the middle as the central piece, regardless of whether we talk about systems, machineries, artificial intelligence. The ultimate and the most important element is the human being in its regulation. Around this human being, we built the regulation to have a management system, which is already common, and you very well know this concept from the other existing regulations. The aerodrome regulation is based on the development and implementation of a management system. The same for the aircraft operators, it's the same for organizations, for the aircrew training schools. All the regulations have this central piece of the management system in the middle that is an umbrella which covers all that an organization develops, implements, everything that happens within an organization or within a competent authority. So we also have within this management system for the ground handling organizations the subsystem of the SMS, the training requirements, which the training is going to be a mandatory thing. Today, surprise, it's not mandatory, and very few countries in the European Union actually have a regulation at national level, if you can imagine that. Then we are also going to have a maintenance program requirement for the ground support equipment, which is another very important aspect of the ground handling operations. So we already know from statistics and data and information that the damage produced to the aircraft on the ground during the turnaround activities raises up to 1.3 billion euros every year in Europe alone. And this figure is about to increase tremendously if nothing is going to happen to prevent these multiple damage events to the aircraft. So from the moment when the regulation becomes applicable, we will also have requirements for organizations to have a maintenance program in place. And of course, the operational requirements, which are the regular SOPs, so the operational procedures, which are very properly well mentioned. Indeed, the operational procedures are the ones that regulate and put in order all the activities that take place in ground handling. So all these elements are going to become mandatory for organizations, part of the regulation. But let's not forget that ground handling happens at an aerodrome to an aircraft, which means that the ground handling organizations, service providers, will have to apply the instructions and procedures of the aircraft operators. This is a given, this is part of the big regulation that requires all of us, all of the basic regulation, and there's no way around it. And at the same time, the service provider will have to comply and to apply the procedures developed by the aerodrome operator for the operation of that specific aircraft. And that includes everything which affects the users, that is driving on the movement area, the application of the FOD program, the training requirements for the drivers, all the elements, the adverse weather operation procedures, all the elements that are absolutely essential for the ground handlers to follow. So these are the main aspects. We also took into account the fact that today it doesn't seem like the safety culture is a well-known and understood and applied concept in ground handling. We saw a very limited number of safety reports being submitted by ground handling organizations in Europe, which is quite of a concern, and it was one of the trigger elements that made us push forward and understand what's going on. And to be honest with you, when reading the reports on ground handling events, it looks like there isn't much knowledge about how a report should be written for the reader to understand what has been going on during that event. So very few reports and very poorly written, with very little effect. And why? We can only guess, because there hasn't been a clear process with written evidence about why this is not working so well, or as well as expected. There is another big regulation that has been applicable to including some handling organizations that's related to the occurrence reporting that has been going on and implemented since 2016-15. And the reports are not good. Maybe it could be because ground handlers are afraid to report because of bad consequences. Maybe it's because they haven't been properly explained how reporting improves the safety culture within an organization. Maybe it's because there is no clear feedback loop from the authority that receives the reports back to the ground handler directly. Because if there is no national legislation in place, those reports are being submitted, but there's no feedback. So, what have you done in the meantime to make sure that this event is not repeated now? This dialogue between the authority, ground handling organization on a particular event is not very clear, and it's not regular, it's not systematic. So there are many things as to why it's not working properly, and we want to in the future. This being said, and if you don't stop me, I can probably talk the whole day. I'm not Italian, but I like to talk about it. What I suggest is I can stop and go a little deeper into the elements that I already mentioned, but I would also be very happy to answer any questions, and please feel free to I don't know, raise an issue or any concern that you may have, because I'm prepared for everything, and I will tell you very honestly, I don't have an answer to this question yet, but I will investigate it. So it's how you would like me to go ahead, I will go ahead.
Maybe we can open a small discussion for 15 minutes, if you like, and then it's a good idea. Thank you. Okay. Please feel free to take the floor and address the question, or
I will start just to facilitate the discussion a little bit. Asking you
C'è una bella domanda.
regulation process, which are the expectation you have at the moment. So it could help everybody, in my opinion, in keeping the calendar diary of today and the next maybe 2-3 years, just the of the main activities that every angler have to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for this question. See, I knew that this was a good idea because I may forget very important things that I want to communicate to you today. So, in terms of where we are now, what's coming and when. The EASA opinion was published in January this year. Since January, the document is no longer with the EASA. It doesn't belong to us anymore. It's the Commission document. And what's going on today is a very European term. You will not find it in any dictionary. It's called comitology, where you have many committees and subcommittees within the European Commission and also within the European Parliament, because this is a regulation that is also involving the Parliament readings and opinions. This comitology process has started the moment when the EASA published the opinion. We are in the discussions now, Commission discussing with the Member States, with the competent authorities of the Member States about they negotiate on the text, they highlight, okay, what is this, what does it mean, we don't think that this is properly phrased, let's talk about this other aspect. So this is a fine-tuning, a negotiation upon the final text. We actually thought it would take longer for the Commission to adopt this, considering that this is a totally new domain that is being regulated. However, the good news is that we may expect an adoption of the regulation this October. Yes. If not October, it's going to be definitely February next year. So this is the longest, the late date, but the very early and the very possible date would be this October, which means that together with the translating of the document in the languages of the European Union, we may even have a regulation before the end of this year, or at the latest, February, March next year. The translators have already started to work on the document, and I'm in constant contact with them now to explain the most difficult concepts in different languages. And what this means is we have foreseen, and this was our proposal included in the opinion, that we would like to have a transition period, give enough time for all the organizations affected to prepare of 3 years. And this has been accepted by the Commission. So this means that as soon as the regulation enters into force, which is usually the 20th day or the day after its publication in the official journal, we will count the years in which the regulation is not applicable yet, but the text is there, it is in force, which means that all the organizations can already start preparing for it. They may even start implementing it already. But at that time, it's not, I would say, fully, absolutely mandatory to prove compliance with the new regulation. So this is 3 years to prepare to shift from the existing regime to the future regime. The regulation also includes a part that it's related to the information security management, so cyber security. You know that the Commission published 2 regulations, 2022 and 2023, to cover all the other aviation domains. Of course, we knew that this would also have to be applied to ground handling, but we already know that this is a very complex domain, totally new. We don't even probably yet comprehend it fully. And we also expect complications or difficulties in its implementation. So considering that ground handling is a totally new regulation, Part IS comes on top of everything. So we said, we would like our industry and our authorities to focus on implementing the ground handling regulation first. Then, enabling us more time to take into account the lessons learned from the other domain, we are proposing a 6-year transition period for Part IS alone, which has also been accepted so far by the Commission. So we hope that the regulation will stay like that. 3 years transition for the ground handling rules and 6 years for the elements that are related to park areas, information security management.
Thank you. We have another question? Could you state your name?
Nice to meet you. My name is Maria Traina. I am responsible for safety here in Bergamo for the handling. Okay. In May, I have attended, I was very pleased to attend in Reykjavik, the IATA conference. And the two major focus highlighted were staff retainment and sanitization. I don't know if you can take these two questions. Staff retainment. Yes. This trying to explain something. How can we cope with the different procedures of the airlines and the continuing turnover of staff? Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. These are very important questions and very important answers. In terms of standardization, what I already told you was that the ground handling organizations will have to apply the instructions and the procedures of the aircraft operators, which does not help too much with the standardization of the operational procedures. We all know, you all know about the very, I like to avoid the word stupid, but sometimes it is stupid to apply 20 different ways of clocking and calling an Airbus 319 because it's the same Airbus 319 with 20 different procedures from 20 different air operators, which may pose a problem in terms of human factor, right? Which may affect safety. So because this is a given in the basic regulation and because the aircraft operator continues to be responsible for the safety of its aircraft, we only thought, okay, we need to improve the situation. We cannot go against what the ground handlers will have to follow, but let's see how we can standardize the elements step by step. So first we thought, okay, we need to amend both the existing levels regulation and to put in the new ground handling regulation that whenever these operational procedures are common to both the aircraft operator and to the ground handler based on industry standards that are applicable today by probably 99% of the industry, then it is possible for the aircraft operator to agree to use the operational procedures of the ground handler. They are probably they will be the same. And then we also considered what if we add an additional element to say to the aircraft operator, dear aircraft operator, if you have deviations from the same industry standard that is being used by the ground handler for the operational procedures, please reconsider if your deviations are related to safety or not. If they are related to safety, but you cannot prove that they are safer than the ground handling organization's procedures, maybe you would consider giving them up because it doesn't bring any safety value in addition to the procedures already applied. So, and the industry standards anyway involve the lessons learned from the daily operations from both the operators and the ground handlers. And the industry standards are being updated every year, every 2 years, with these lessons learned. So in the end, all the positive feedback gets into the standard gets updated, and it's always the safest possible operational procedure up to date. So then in the end, it doesn't make too much sense for the operators to keep those many variations or deviations from the industry standard if they cannot really be proven to bring an additional safety. So this is one step towards standardizing the operational procedures. Another one is by having one regulation for all the 30 EASA member states. In the context in which today there are very few countries, as I said, that have everybody is applying whatever they consider. Industry is trying to self-regulate by applying industry standards. They will be allowed to continue to apply those industry standards on a voluntary basis. The regulation will not impose the mandatory implementation of industry standards, but they will be put into a process of an easier recognition and easier acceptance by the authorities to be available and used by the industry. What else we want to standardize is, okay, to establish minimum elements of the training of the personnel. Because again, today, we all know that it's always about the money. Even when we constantly say safety has priority, safety is always the most important element. And always people think, yeah, but how much will it cost me to implement safety? It's always like that. And we know that this is a reality and it makes no sense for us to ignore it. It's always like that. And we know that sometimes in order to cut corners, organizations and people are trying to not do what is necessary to do. We need to keep the training constant, to keep competence of their personnel. So we want to have this regulation to focus on the training level. We want people to be competent, we want people to be monitored on how they perform safely in their daily operations, and training to be applied where necessary, where their standards go below what is expected of them. So we will have clear training rules, initial, on-the-job training, current training. The current training is going to be flexible and adapted to the needs of the people. Then, because we already know that the ground handling industry has been probably the most affected by the pandemic, in which case we had furloughing and people being let go from ground handling organizations in the highest percentage. The ASA, the Association of Service, the Airport Services Association reported somewhere around 60 to 66% of the people being laid off and furloughed. We know that this is a problem, a big problem with retention of personnel. This has a very important social aspect. We will not solve everything because our area and our scope of assistance is related to safety. But we also thought, okay, how can we indirectly help this and how can we indirectly improve the situation with the retention of personnel from. And while we do not propose miracles, this is the third department, it's not the EASA to solve. We have considered the possibility for the organizations to already recognize the training done by a person when they move from one organization to the other. So there's going to be an assessment of the training that needs upon the newcomer being employed by another organization. And when that training is already, and this is something that we thought, okay, this can be covered by the regulation. The regulation will say when a person leaves an organization, once that person's request, they shall receive from the organization the training that they want to do, the records with details about the syllabus of the training so that they can present this training the records to the new employer. And then this will streamline and this will help standardize both the training and the easy acknowledgement of the competence of a person coming into the organization. Training needs analysis step is going to be there to assess the needs for further training of the new person, and then only those aspects will be covered. So that's also what we do. Make the training program process more efficient by not retraining the person completely, so also making the cost more efficient. an easier recognition of a person's competence, and also part of the organization process with regards to training. So again, this is not solving the whole problem. It's solving part of the problem. What also we think is going to have a huge effect is we need to understand that this is really a game changer. We want ground handling organizations to really be part of the aviation total system approach. We want safety. This will elevate the status of the ground handling organizations from simply service providers to actors with an equal voice in discussing safety with the air operators and with the aerodrome operators. We want all these three most important actors to talk together at the same table with an equal voice, sharing equal concerns, because if I leave it all, including the authority, we have the same goal. Safety. I'm not so sure that I answered everything about your question. Probably I touched some points. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Grazie ancora, complimenti anche per il suo italiano, oltre che per la chiarezza dispositiva e anche per averci dato l'opportunità di interagire con lei con alcune domande. Ci sarà uno spazio per le domande e risposte ancora alla fine degli altri interventi, quindi chi ha ancora qualche curiosità, qualcosa da chiedere, lo tenga in caldo per un attimo. Intanto diamo la parola al prossimo intervento. L'intervento del titolo Safety